All right, stay with me, Chad. Touchdown, Chad Johnson. You go into one of these.
These commercials are so good.
Action.
Are you serious? If I did that in public, I'd find myself.
All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope you all are having a good night so far. Hope you guys had a good day. I wanted to check out this video that popped up on my feed. Tell you the truth, I started watching it last night, about like 2 minutes maybe of it, and I was like, you know what, this would be a cool thing to kind of for us to discuss. First of all, kidding. How ESPN destroyed their network, and then in parentheses they gave up on fans. This is from a channel called Lincoln Argus. Never heard of this one yet, but I'm gonna link the original video down below in the description for you guys. And there you'll also see a list of channel members. Shout out to Chae Park, new channel member. Appreciate you guys. But I wanted to react to this for one main reason. I know a lot of you remember what ESPN used to be, like what SportsCenter used to be, what the entire network used to be like, and feel like before it became nothing but like clickbait, you know, debate-driven media. Like it was actually like reporting the news, and the topic of ESPN was always sports. So they were always just like reporting sports to us, and it was usually in a non-biased, non-combative way. It was more appreciative of the game and each individual sport and the players within those sports, and it wasn't so much of this debate media that I think really, I mean, according to my timeline, it was Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. Those two created the debate content, and it seems like it's never been the same ever since. But I wanted to watch this video with you guys because I might have some of the timeline wrong. I do tend to blame Disney a lot for this because once they acquired ESPN, it's never quite been the same. But I do think that this might have started with the debate media even prior to that acquisition. So I did want to watch this and kind of make sure I've got the story straight, since I do talk about it a lot. But I also wanted to like hear your guys' memories in the comments about how ESPN used to be, because I used to be able to just watch this in the background. I used to sleep to SportsCenter, tell you the truth. But now I can't do it because it's constant people shouting at each other, shouting over each other, and just, I don't even feel like they're being genuine about their takes. I feel like they just have to be like, okay, you want to be on this side or that side? Okay, cool, I'll be on this side, let's fight. You know, that'll be good content, let's just fight. And I'm not really a fan of it. Anyways, you guys, yeah, link is going to be in the description, and let's get into this one. Like the vid if you can, I'd appreciate it a lot, and let's do it.
Whether it was sports personalities viewers could relate to, the iconic This Is SportsCenter commercials, or shows that were not only entertaining, but also featured real journalists delivering honest and thoughtful perspectives. ESPN used to be the gold standard, but sadly today, fans have to watch hours of so-called journalists yelling over each other, to anchors obsessed with only the biggest names and teams, and the constant injection of politics and countless other distractions. As cable TV continues...
Wait, what were they talking about? Most influential person in sports? Yeah, man, come on, man. Can we stick to sports on a sports network, guys?
Continues to decline year after year, ESPN is doing everything in its power to stay relevant. As a result, they have abandoned the very things that made their
Wait a second. Dude, this is that's when LeBron did a decision. I swear this signified the end of the golden era. Like right here in 2010 really. But that would have been like a flat line here, you know, from 2010. But I swear, things changed a lot after that, and it's more than just basketball.
Everything in its power to stay relevant. As a result, they have abandoned the very things that made their network great in the first place, in exchange for viral clicks, and more than anything, their greed for money. This is the incredible rise and slow, painful, yet satisfying downfall of ESPN.
Let's do it.
In today's day and age, fans can get score updates via countless apps. More content within those apps, tune in to dedicated sports channels like ESPN, FS1, and NFL Network. Watch independent creators on YouTube, listen to thousands of sports podcasts, and have access to all of their favorite games and highlights at their fingertips. To be honest, it's quite a challenge to avoid sports altogether. However, the stark contrast between now and the days before ESPN was created will make you instantly grateful for all of the options you have today. Before the creation of ESPN, sports coverage on television used to be hard to come by. Fans would either have to wait for historic events such as the Super Bowl, NBA Finals, or even the Olympics to watch fully broadcasted games.
Olympics were great times because of that. Shout out Carl Lewis. The guy was my hero.
Or to find out whether your favorite team had won, you would need to sit through hours of unrelated news coverage just to see the scores. Or the most reliable and common way was to check your daily newspaper the next morning. Also, as a way to make it easier for fans to get score updates, score hotlines started popping up around the country. Fans would have to throw in $1, dial a specific number, and hear a minute-long message with the latest scores and sports news. So obviously, something as simple as checking live scores today was quite a challenge 45 years ago. But that would all change in 1979, when a man by the name of Bill Rasmussen created ESPN. After being fired from his job as a communications director for the New England Whalers in 1978, an unemployed 45-year-old Bill Rasmussen, with a family to feed, started brainstorming ideas.
I guess I'd always been a sports fan, so something in sports was going to happen. And wouldn't it be great if we could produce our own programming and get some coverage, maybe locally, maybe in New England?
Bill's original idea of a Connecticut-only sports channel...
It started out as a very small vision then. What the hell?
Soon progressed to the possibility of a nationwide sports channel after learning about a new communication satellite that was being launched into space that could connect back down to cable systems all over the US. So after educating himself about this new satellite, Bill Rasmussen knew he found a gold mine and had to go all in. But before he could do any of that, Bill had to get investors to help bring ESPN to life. However, at the time, the idea of a 24/7 sports channel was unheard of, and many people doubted that it would work. On top of that, Rasmussen pitched an idea of an entirely ad-supported network.
Meaning back then you'd have to watch the entire news, like the local news or whatever, and hope that you get some highlights or something in a sports section.
That the network would make all their money by selling ad spots, which is essentially the backbone of how TV shows and now content creators make money. But again, this was in the 70s, when ideas like this sounded unrealistic, as most TV networks would not only make their money from ad slots, but also charge cable providers and have their parent company pouring in millions of dollars for financial support. So the idea of a television network relying solely on ad slots was too risky for most investors, until Bill Rasmussen struck a deal with Getty Oil.
Getty Oil. They would provide the money. He started off and he said, we take 80% of your company and we'll give you all the money you want. No, make that 85.
Damn.
That was tough to take. If I didn't give up the control, we would have lost the idea.
So with the help of a new satellite and a...
Okay, so at this point they own 85% of ESPN. Yeah, oil rigging back then was huge. I've seen some images of what California used to look like during the big oil era. You know, when everything shifted from gold into oil. And it's wild to see where all these rigs, they were like all up and down the beaches and whatnot, all intermingled into cities. And now you can see like the same images of what it looks like now. It's just wild it was a completely different country at that point. Anyways, side note. All the money, the reason I bring it is that's where the big money was. All the money in the world was right there and drilling for oil.
Whole lot of oil money. ESPN was launched on September 7th, 1979. And this is the very first segment that ever aired on ESPN.
Hi. I'm Lee Leonard welcoming you to Bristol, Connecticut, 110 miles from New York City. Why Bristol? Because here in Bristol is where all the sports action is as of right now. Now, here's another innovation on ESPN, and it's going to be a big part of our future. The Sports Center with George Grand. He'll have the latest on what's happening all around. George?
Thanks, Lee, and welcome everyone to the ESPN Sports Center. It takes an interview.
That's the Sports Center. Dude, okay, so this was here from day one.
We'll do it. If it takes play-by-play, we'll do it. If it takes commentary, we'll do that too. That's the way we'll function from the ESPN Sports Center.
Now, I'm still not sure just exactly how it works, but here's a man who can show us. Bill Rasmussen, board chairman of ESPN, who along with his son Scott put it all together.
The picture you're watching right now has been taken by a camera sent through some sophisticated equipment to this Earth transmitting station, which in turn feeds a satellite located 22,300 miles above the equator just south of Hawaii. The satellite receives the picture, sends it to an Earth station near your home, which in turn takes the picture over cable into your living room set. Total elapsed time, 1/5 of 1 second.
Damn.
Let me put that into perspective. Take any one of the next several words that I'll mention. From the beginning of the word to the end of the word, the picture will come from our camera to our transmitting station, up to the satellite, and onto your screen.
Dude.
ESPN would broadcast.
Yeah, back then, that's next level. That's next level. It's crazy. I'm an old dude, I guess, man. I've been around for this. Dial-up telephones and all this, and now we're dealing with like AI, artificial intelligence, and high-tech robotics and crap. Like, what the hell? What the hell? How do we do it so fast?
A handful of events that day, such as college football, a slow-pitch softball game, and a professional rodeo.
Rodeos
ESPN's
everywhere, guys. You remember rodeos on ESPN all the time?
This broadcast, though rough around the edges, was the beginning of a network that would change the way we watch sports forever. In its first year, ESPN's broadcast rights were limited. Therefore, the main sports that would broadcast in the beginning could go from wrestling to racquetball to minor league baseball. Because of that, the early days of ESPN had a lot more to improve on, and they wasted no time fixing them. As the new decade arrived, ESPN quickly made a name for themselves, primarily by investing in broadcasting rights to different sporting events. From acquiring the rights to televise early rounds of the NCAA basketball tournament, now known as March Madness, to the NFL draft, helping it go from this to this. And also acquiring the rights to broadcast top-ranked boxing.
Boxing was all over the place too back then, for sure, I remember.
ESPN was laying the groundwork to become a staple of cable television. However, they had one problem. In order to dominate the sports industry, ESPN's main goal during this time was to acquire rights to broadcast major sports, such as the NBA, MLB, and the NFL. But with Getty Oil in control, ESPN had a ceiling it couldn't break through. When Getty Oil initially invested in the company, they didn't view it as a long-term deal. They knew all along that they were just trying to get a quick return. As a result, Getty Oil wouldn't provide any more funding to ESPN, leading to the network losing the broadcasting rights with the NHL and college football. But ESPN's problem would quickly be solved once the American Broadcasting Company bought 100% of ESPN.
Wow, okay. I mean, this is part of why I wanted to watch this. Because, I mean, we've now seen it go from one man's vision to being owned by oil riggers or an oil rigging corporation company, now to ABC. 100% ownership. I'm curious, is that how Disney acquired them? Because they acquired ABC? Did they acquire? Let's find out.
Now, with the backing of ABC and no longer a startup surviving on oil money, ESPN finally had the credibility to be taken seriously by these major sports leagues. And yes, ESPN had been running for 5 years by this point, but this is when things really began to take off. Striking broadcasting deals with the NFL to acquire Sunday Night Football, along with more games of college basketball and football, plus deals with the NHL and MLB. ESPN was dominating the sports industry.
Hey, was that Dwight Gooden?
Football, plus deals with the NHL and MLB. ESPN was dominating the sports industry, and in honor of this newfound success, they introduced a much more modern logo, the one we all know today.
Then you knew, here we go, like we're going straight up.
Alongside ESPN's growing success,
okay, this should be the era that I started watching. This is what's familiar to me.
Top show SportsCenter became a staple of the network, one that's still running over 30 years later. At its core, SportsCenter was originally an entertaining yet informing show that gave fans straightforward updates on all the day's sports news. ESPN's
That's what I loved it. They incorporated some humor, you know, but really it was just like a couple of people. I mean, back then, let's be real, it was a couple dudes talking about sports. and talking about the game. Here's the highlights. We're going to comment over it, and we're going to talk about it. It wasn't about like being opposing each other and battling each other. It wasn't about being right or wrong. That's when reporters knew their job was to like report, you know? Now I don't even know what it is anymore. What is reporting anymore?
Rise to become a household name was unique. See, being the go-to destination for sports fans would be enough for most cable networks. But what made ESPN stand out and so beloved was their ability to establish a group of hosts and reporters that were not only
Stuart Scott, shout out, man.
talented but had personality. These were people fans felt like they could relate to. 100% of you watching this video like sports. There's a good chance that most of you are fans of basketball, since that's my channel's main focus. You click over to any sports network, they're showing basketball, you stay and watch. The moment they play a sport you're unfamiliar with, you click off. But if you were watching ESPN, you wouldn't be going anywhere. The charisma and chemistry of the hosts made SportsCenter worth watching, no matter what sport they were covering. Their inside jokes, catchphrases, and storytelling made the news feel like entertainment.
For sure.
And that was ESPN's biggest advantage over every other network in the country.
Yeah, Berman commenting over the highlights of football games, dude. There's nothing better. Nothing better than back.
From Chris Berman's larger-than-life personality to the chemistry between Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, followed by Stuart Scott's iconic catchphrases.
And the scoring race between Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson was as tight as a ring on a fat guy's finger.
All of this helped ESPN become the #1 major cable network in America, beating out other giants.
Ooh, MTV down there, back when you were actually music. This is exactly how I feel. I feel like ESPN has turned into MTV. Because you guys remember when MTV was actually music? You know, they covered music and that was the draw. But then they started doing reality TV and all this other crap that took away from music itself. That's how I feel about ESPN. Remember when they used to just talk about sports?
In CNN and MTV. From 1980 to 1990, ESPN progressed quicker than anyone expected. Therefore, the network not only fixed the problems they had early in their existence, but also adding key elements that propelled them to become the largest cable network in the country. However, ESPN's golden era was only just getting started. As the 90s begun, ESPN would enter its golden era. So when you see comments that say how much they miss ESPN and wish it was like what it was in the 90s and early...
Yeah, ESPN was like having a beer with your bro and kicking it. Now it's like being trapped in an elevator with people who don't get invited to parties. That's exactly how I feel. That is absolutely perfect. That's what it used to feel like. That's exactly what it used to feel like. You're hanging out with your buddies, talking about sports. You know, like that's all we were lacking back then was a comment section. But outside of that, it really felt like we were just hanging out with our buddies, having a beer, just enjoying some sports together.
2000s, more specifically, ESPN was like having a beer with your bro and kicking it. Now it's like being trapped in an elevator with the people who don't get invited to parties. Those people are most likely ages 45 and older, because that's how old you have to be to remember this. In 1992, ESPN would launch ESPN Sports Radio. Then 1 year later, launched ESPN2, the younger sibling of ESPN, aimed at the younger demographic, where hosts would wear casual clothing instead of a suit and tie, along with the studio itself being well less corporate looking compared to ESPN's usual setup. In 1996 came the launch of ESPN News, a non-stop sports news channel that would run 24/7. ESPN was so entertaining that kids were skipping school just to watch SportsCenter all morning. Back then, ESPN felt like a truly well-rounded network. You had live games, highlights, trusted analysis from respected reporters, and genuine entertainment from those guys as well. I mentioned some, but add in Rich Eisen, Dick Vitale, Scott Van Pelt, and John Buchacross. These guys helped build a strong and loyal fan base. And I bet you've never heard anyone say they skipped school to watch ESPN in the last 15 years. Fans were treated with
back then, all I needed was 2 channels. I was very happy to have them. All right, I lied. I needed 3. ESPN, WGN, NBC. That's all I needed.
Iconic, this is SportsCenter commercials.
All right, stay with me, Chad. Touchdown, Chad Johnson. And you go into one of these.
These commercials are so good.
Action.
Are you serious? If I did that in public, I'd find myself. Next.
Next.
Go ahead. Yep. What's going on with your hat, man? What's wrong with my hat, man? I mean, it doesn't look like a ball player's hat. I mean, it looks all brand new, you know?
Just come out of the box.
I'm a catcher, man. I never had to wear that thing.
You gotta break this thing in.
Oh!
Hey, Wally.
That's awesome.
Wally.
Oh,
hey,
man.
It's not what you think.
Hey, George?
Yeah?
Borrow one of your sticky notes?
Yeah.
I remember
You know, I'm just gonna write it on my hand.
Doing?
That's great.
What do you mean?
What's going on, guys?
Josh, what's up, man?
Excuse me. What's up with him?
A couple of those home run derby balls you hit?
Yeah.
They were his cousins.
And as for shows, ESPN was loaded from SportsCenter.
I'm
NFL.
sorry, it's still funny. It's still funny, man. I miss this stuff. Remember when there was humor in this? Like, there was humor everywhere. That's why we were so happy.
Primetime, Baseball Tonight, to the sports reporters.
They take this crap
also,
so serious.
ESPN launched ESPN Zone, a chain of sports-themed restaurants and entertainment centers.
First one of these I went to was in New York, actually. It was awesome, too. It was awesome. I ended up just like drinking beer with a local the entire time. It's bomb-ass nachos, too.
With arcade machines and of course loads of live action sports. A pretty unique way ESPN brought fans together. In 1996, ESPN was brought by Disney.
Wait, I'm sorry, this is important. Because I only got to go once. Are there still ESPN zones out there, you guys? Can you let me know in the comments? Do they still exist? Are they still cool? Because I had a great experience that one time, but that was 2008 or something like that.
Part of its purchase of ESPN's parent company, ABC.
Okay. So this is where it's happening. So let me focus now.
Sports. A pretty unique way ESPN brought fans together. In 1996, ESPN was brought by Disney as a part of its purchase of ESPN's parent company, ABC. A partnership that's...
So that is what happened. They bought ABC, and along with that package comes ESPN. Okay. So it was still in the 90s. I thought it was later on. Okay, so Disney didn't ruin... Okay, I can't blame Disney anymore, maybe. Let's keep going.
Still exists to this day, though it's no longer as beloved by fans as it once was. So with all that I've mentioned is what made ESPN the king of sports television. The relatability, the entertainment, and the credible reporting is what made them stand out. But as the world was adapting to a new thing called the internet, ESPN had to completely rethink its strategy and business model. At the turn of the century, ESPN introduced ESPN Original Entertainment, now known as ESPN Films, a new lane for the network to roll out different forms of entertainment, from talk shows, docuseries, miniseries, and even game shows. This was ESPN's attempt to become more than a sports network, similar to how MTV were branching outside of just music videos at the time. As a result, ESPN produced a lot of content. Pardon the interruption, Around the Horn, Cold Pizza, Jim Rohner's Burning.
Okay, I mean, I like PTI. Around the Horn was fun too. Cold Pizza, not my thing. Jim Rome was not really my thing.
ESPN Hollywood, Quite Frankly with Stephen A. Smith, Playmakers, Tilt, The Bronx is Burning, Bonds on Bonds, Night School, Madden Nation, Bound for Glory, Battle of the Gridiron Stars, Straight Ball, The Life, It's the Shoes, Stump the Schwab, 2 Minute Drill. ESPN was absolutely firing out ideas during the 2000s, though most shows were cancelled in a few years or less as a result of either drifting further away from any sports relevance or just poor acting. However, they still had shows like Around the Horn, which was a debate show featuring 4 sports writers from different parts of the country arguing over the day's hottest topics. The host, who was originally Max Kellerman, would award or deduct points based on the strength of their arguments.
At least that was fun. It was a game. It was a game system. But that was kind of the beginning of the end, wasn't it?
The Interruption, another debate show which featured 2 longtime sports writers and friends, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon. The two also debated the day's biggest sports stories with a strict timer for each segment, keeping their discussions fast-paced and focused.
I like that too. Because it was like individual rounds, and they had a lot of respect for each other. Hell, they still do. And I feel like it was more them trying to outwit each other, as opposed to like slandering anyone else. You know what I mean? Because that's what seems to be the tactic nowadays, is I'm going to make your guy look bad in order to make my guy look better. And I don't feel like they did that a lot. That's just my opinion, though. I feel like they were more going after each other, trying to outwit each other in general.
And of course, the most famous of them all, Cold Pizza, where two pundits, Woody Page and someone you might recognize, Skip Bayless, led the show's main segment, First and 10, where they debated 10 of the biggest sports topics of the day, often joined by rotating guests. What, you don't recognize this show? Well, in 2007, Cold Pizza would be rebranded into First Take.
I know the history of it for sure, but I never watched it. I was not a fan.
Show that everybody knows by now and has since overshadowed the entire
this right here, not this, but
into First Take. The show
this right here signifies when I started losing interest in SportsCenter or ESPN. When this was at the forefront, debate media, this is when I was watching less and less and less each year.
That everybody knows by now and has since overshadowed the entire program.
In fact, I used to switch over, sorry for the pausing, I used to switch over to like NFL Network if it was football season and I wanted that insight because those guys were fun. Remember like Michael Irvin and like Deion Sanders being on that panel? And then if it was basketball I was looking for, then I would go to NBA TV. Because they were actually doing it the old school way where they're really just talking about the games, talking about the players and what happened, all that. They were reporting the damn news. And I appreciated it because they were doing it in a fun, entertaining way. And it wasn't just debate content stuff. So ESPN really started losing my business right at this point. Because every time I went over there, I'd walk away with a headache.
Or for worse. Which leads us to ESPN's downfall.
Yep.
Now, I don't have a specific date or year when ESPN was at its peak, but from what I've gathered, it seems like the 90s and early 2000s was ESPN's prime. And to the 30, 40, even 50-year-olds. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong and share your opinions in the comments.
Yeah, is it time for me to stop calling it the golden era of basketball? And was this just the golden era of sports in general? Let me know, guys. This is kind of this video has been really cool so far. Like, really informative.
Either way, let's dive into ESPN's downfall. First Take was debuted in 2007 with Skip Bayless as the main host alongside rotating guest, and this show quickly became the most popular on the program, especially after acquiring Skip's co-host Stephen A. Smith, a true loudmouth person.
What's that headline? LeBron says he's 50 times better now than he was in the 2007 NBA Finals. Okay, if you say so, buddy.
Especially after acquiring Skip's co-host, Stephen A. Smith. The two loudmouth personalities would spark heated debates, where the focus wasn't on making respectable arguments, but on delivering takes, no matter how dumb or flamboyant.
I agree. Yep, I'm glad he's covering that too. It's when it became disrespectful, and it was attacking people, and that was never supposed to be the intention of discussing sports. You know, you could say my guy's better than your guy, and blah, blah, blah. We'll go back and forth a little bit, and then like, okay, moving on. You don't have to convince the other person that you're right. That comes from insecurities.
Goal was to go viral, and it worked. As a result, the take culture would become the new wave. The cheap and profitable format led to a shift in the way fans consume sports news. ESPN quickly learned that a debate show doesn't have to be good enough to keep viewers watching for 3 hours. But the goal is to generate clips that people will share like wildfire, which is pretty much the foundation of how streamers build audiences nowadays. Clip farming. But for ESPN, this was working. And in 2011, they were at their all-time high in viewership, with 100 million cable subscribers. So, riding off the high of their recent success, ESPN signed a number of long-term broadcasting deals with major sports. ESPN for $15 billion over 8 years, NBA for $24 billion over 9 years, college football for $7 billion over 12 years, and the MLB for $5.6 billion over 8 years. Signing these major deals in the early 2010s, ESPN was in the perfect position as their cable viewership was at an all-time high. But unfortunately, since 2011, their viewership has never reached those levels again.
They've only been downhill since then too. But yeah, definitely since the golden era.
Cable subscriptions have declined significantly since. This was the beginning of the great social media emergence, and truthfully, TV in general was struggling. As a result, ESPN had to cut costs, and they did that by laying off 350 employees who were mostly not on camera. Then the network did the same thing in 2017.
What the hell? Okay. It's not just this that bothers me. This bothers me. So, yeah, they realize they have a problem. They're not making enough money, so they need to cut jobs. I don't like it, but I understand this, right? But they were so out of touch leading up to that day, like so in denial that it was happening, that they had 200 open job positions. They were looking to hire 200 more people when they were not financially doing it. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say it. But they were looking to hire 200 more people, and then blink of an eye, we have to fire 300. Like, it's crazy that expansion
who were mostly
rate.
not on camera. Then the network did the same thing in 2017. This time, many were on-air personalities who had become familiar faces to viewers, but were cut as the network had to cut extra cost. Which brings us to the last number of years where ESPN has been losing its audience's respect more and more. Whether that's from delving into politics, prioritizing loud, controversial opinions over actual analysis, or covering only the biggest names from the Lakers, Cowboys, LeBron, and Aaron Rodgers. ESPN simply isn't what it used to be. ESPN used to be the place where pundits would beg to work for so they could showcase their skills. Now, personalities can just start their own independent show and do better on their own.
Yo, is that Joe Johnson?
Now,
is that ISO Joe down here with Chad? Cool room, bro.
Personalities can just start their own independent show and do better on their own without being controlled by the higher-ups. Which takes us to ESPN's competition that's been slowly catching up. Every major sport has their own dedicated sports network. Undisputed developed into a First Take clone. YouTube had emerged into a place where fans could watch highlights and independent creators. Which is probably why ESPN is failing, right? Actually, not at all. As cable subscribers decline, ESPN's digital viewership is growing and their audience is actually bigger than their TV peak in 2011. But the way they're staying relevant is what so much fans hate. You see, before social media, whatever ESPN put on was what defined us sports fans. Now with Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and every teenager having access to the entire internet at their fingertips, kids become influenced by so many other things. So ESPN pretty much has to force themselves onto us. As a result, the network prioritizes personalities that can bring in the biggest crowd, no matter if it's positive or negative. And that's a big reason why Stephen A. Smith recently got a $100 million contract from ESPN, a deal that makes many believe that he's the most overpaid man in America. But the truth is, he earned it.
No, yeah, I mean, we might think it's crazy to pay somebody that much money for doing this job, but that means he's making more than that. Like, he's making ESPN, he's making Disney way more money than that. So he is earning the money. I won't pretend like I'm a huge fan or anything like that, but man, yeah, he's earning his pay.
Stephen A. Smith is an expert at sparking up a conversation. So well that he had a public feud with LeBron James. And although ESPN has some great shows like PTI, SportsCenter with Van Pelt, and Monday Night Football with the Manning brothers, the question is, will ESPN
now, this
soon
I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed that. The two Manning brothers on ESPN2 for Monday Night Football games, that's classic.
Invent themselves or keep going down their current path?
I don't like when videos go to the very last second like that. All right, that's the end of this one. Wow. So major thing I gotta say from all this is I can't believe Disney bought it back in the end of the 90s. So it took them about 10 years to really start killing the product. And after 10 years, it was like unrecognizable. And really just, I mean, I talk about it all the time, but seeing the visuals, seeing the faces, like I could remember what this content was like. And it's completely unrecognizable to what it is now. ESPN is a completely different beast than it was. And I'm glad that it's being discussed here, that it's all about, it's trolling. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, they're trolling the audience for comments, for views, for clicks, because There's no other reason that they'd say this ridiculous crap that they do in order to spark debates if it wasn't working. And it's causing people to, like, you know, click angrily. You know, like, no way, he didn't just say that. And then, you know, you click on a damn video. Next thing you know, you're commenting and you're helping the algorithm. Blah, 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 blah. But it's sad that, like, ESPN is doing it, where this is supposed to be, like, the most honest and pure basketball network that was around. And now they're actually leading the charge in these other tactics that are not honest anymore. So, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of YouTubers out there for any topic, any subject, and, you know, that's how they make a living, is just like clickbait, like pure clickbait. AI's gotten so good at it, it's actually like starting to piss me off, because it'll be I have a tendency now to jump right into comments before I dedicate time to a video if I don't know the content creator, because something will say something just absurd, you know, and it's like, no way that's real. But they got me on the first part, they got me on the click, but they're not going to get my retention until I know if this is a scam or not. So I read through the comments, and then, like, I see clickbait, and I'm like, okay, I'm out. You know, like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, I'm not going to waste 20 minutes on a video that's not even going to cover the topic of the headline of the name of the video. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you thought about all this. I feel like if I don't wrap it up, I'm going to be on this tangent for a long time. But I miss when it was pure and just honest. You know, it wasn't about having controversial takes. It wasn't about trolling the audience to get clicks, to make extra money, and to milk every last penny out of this damn machine. But I guess that's Disney for you, you know? I guess not just Disney. That's what we're dealing with, these, like, you know, multi-billion-dollar corporations. And some of them are trillion-dollar corporations. So what are you going to do? I'm just not a fan. So it was around the time where these guys started declining that I started looking for other alternatives. Like I said, NFL Network, NBA TV, and then I found YouTube. And life has never been the same since I found YouTube, because that's where you can find the people you resonate with. And now look, it's gone full circle. Like, now I'm hanging out with you guys. I'm talking with you guys. Like, there is a reason, you know? So there's a reason why I wanted to do this video. This is what sparked, you know, eventually why I'm here right now. So thank you all for being here with me. I appreciate you guys. Love to hear your comments, and I'll see you in the comment section, okay? Shout out to members. I appreciate you all. Like the video if you haven't done it, I'd appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and most importantly, be water, my friends.